Hello, this is a review for Castle Crusades campaign, session 45. We're still with the B team, and they've begun what I'm calling Orvon's quest. We started off right where we left off with the last session. They're in Scrandon Hall. They've met the halfling ranger Trotter, and they're getting to know each other and planning their trek to Wyvern Spire. While doing this, Pounder, who's played by my buddy Steve, is a half-ogre barbarian. He shows up, and Pounder's an interesting character. If you haven't followed the previous recaps, he's very interesting because he's frighteningly large. And if it wasn't for the party, he never would have been allowed in Arden. That's actually how they met him. He was at the gates with Partry, and the guards were like, nope, he's not coming in here. But they eventually convinced him to allow him in and vouch for him. And now he's probably, the town still, there's probably people that are still a little skeptical of him. But because of his actions in helping liberate Iredale Stronghold, he's accepted. Kind of the way Lork has had to earn his acceptance, being a half-orc. But Pound is an interesting character because he's capable, and we'll see this later in this session actually, of a great amount of violence, but he also has this like peace-loving hippie vibe to him a little bit. I don't know, I think it's definitely intentional the way Steve plays him. He does a really good job playing all of his characters. They're very different from each other. So Pounder like spends his off time like collecting flowers, and he's not stupid either. Like he actually is very, for what he is, he's actually very intelligent. And he like sketches in a journal and stuff like that. It's really interesting how he plays him. But so Pounder arrives, and Orvon, none of the party, because none of them know him. They only know him because of Partry talked about him before he died, like while they were, a little bit of time they spent with Partry. So they want to, pass on to him that, hey, your friend passed away. He was died very heroically and such. But the party as a whole is kind of hesitant to approach him because he is this very large, like he's 8 feet tall, like he's very muscular and strong, half-ogre, atypical, of a half-ogre. And but Orvon does. He's the party leader, and he approaches him, and they talk, and he passes it on. And Pounder takes the news of Partry's death stoically. He just asks if he died heroically, and Orvon ensures that he, yes, he did. And they talk a little bit, and he convinces Pounder to join them, and so they do. And then my buddy Chris kind of threw me a curveball, because then he had his character Orvon. Part of his goal, or his what he's been assigned, is that he has to recruit a band. So that's what he's doing. So the curveball came is when he decided that he was going to search the patronage for more people he could recruit to his band. And this isn't something we discussed ahead of time. So I always like these types of things because it makes me push my improv abilities and stuff as a game master, which is super important to have. Probably the best skill you can have is being able to improv stuff. And so I wasn't sure. Like I was like, oh, I don't know if there's someone here. So I left it up to a die roll. I rolled a d6, and my thought was, much like how I determine random monsters, if it comes up a 1, there's somebody here. So sure enough, I roll a 1. So there's somebody in the Scrandon Hall he can recruit. Turns out to be, and then I dove into another resource that I keep. When I search the internet, I'll find pictures of like character images and stuff, and if I like it, I'll save it. And I found this one of a human fighter that I had saved, so I looked through my folder full of images, and I came across this image, and I'm like, yep, that guy. And then from the Castle Keeper Guide, the Game Master screen that I have behind that wooden screen, there's a list of names for male, females, and their family name, the surname. So from that, I picked it. So he meets this human fighter, Orvon meets this human fighter named Swain. Swain Lockhart is his name. And they talk, and he's basically a mercenary for hire that had come north because he'd heard about the war and stuff, so he's looking for work. But by the time he got to Arden, the war was over. so he kind of missed out on it. And he was actually getting ready. He spent a little time maybe doing a little bit of work here, but he was getting ready to like head out and go somewhere else. So Orvon approaches him, offers him to opportunity to join his band for an equal share of treasure and such. So Swain is he's in. So they get to know each other. There was some fun role play where Pounder's a regular now at the Scranton Hall. The owner, Melisandre, she is and her staff are aware of like his dietary choices. So they bring out like this platter of pickled eggs. That's like Pounder's diet, which is awful. But he eats that. He shares it. He's a very generous character, so he's sharing them. And Dern the Dirty is joining in, and even Swain has one when he's brought over to the group. He eats one, but Pounder eats quite a few of them, and there's the reason he probably sleeps in the stable. They get up early the next morning and they prepare to head out. One of the things that they learn as they're prepping is, like, Orvon's a knight. He has a horse. Willem, his squire, has a horse as well. Trotter tells them, like, you're not going to be able to probably take those horses all the way to Wyvern Spire. Like, it's just not going to be feasible. So they end up leaving them at the stables. They travel for a couple days on the road west towards the mining town. That's an easy travel. That road is so well traveled now. There's not a lot of trouble. They're able to hitch a ride here and there with caravans headed west. And about the midway point, they camp for the night. And then that morning, they strike off into the woods. Trotter leads them into the southern Homewood, and he's trying to take them to a place called Uden Mar, which is a ruined stronghold. And way back when, Lork and the character Rothgar, played by my cousin Dan, they went there, and Lork led his earlier patrol of Wolves of Arden there, and that's where they defeated the Ungren shaman that had been plaguing this area prior to dealing with all the bugbears and stuff. So the players, some of the players are familiar with Udenmar, like my son is, but their characters aren't. They haven't been there. But Trotter explains to them that he has found out that Udenmar was basically a defense, and it was set up there because there's a tunnel underneath Udenmar that goes underneath the mountains and comes out in the Troll Lands. And it was designed as a bastion against the Troll Lands, and it fell a long time ago. They don't know the exact history of it. So his plan is to lead them there. So he thinks that his goal is to get them there in about 2 days. And so they strike off early in the morning, leaving the main road. Easy travel. As a matter of fact, I think it was I don't know if it was the first or second day, but it's about coming up on lunchtime. They're about halfway there, and Trotter's up ahead, as a ranger leading them, and he stops, and as the party catches up with him, they can feel like a temperature drop, and it's late summer, but the weather's still quite nice. They're a little bit close to the mountains, but this is a little bit unusual. And so Dern turns into a bird. I don't know which one he picked, or the raven, I think, and he flies up ahead to see what's going on. And what he sees is a figure, a humanoid, white robed figure, running through the woods kind of towards them. And he's being pursued by 2 very large winter wolves. And he flies down, lands in a tree. As that figure enters this clearing, the figure casts a spell and starts to levitate. And I rolled randomly for weather, and it really fit, actually. There's a chart for that on the Castle Keeper screen. It fit. I came up with actually severe weather, so I had this snow squall come in, and this was very unnatural, even though they're close to the mountains. I think the players at first thought it was just because they're close to the mountains. Maybe they still think that. There's more reasons for that. The rest of the party comes in to join. They hear the howling of these wolves, so they rush in, and they come into this. Let's see if I can show you guys better. They rush into this scene here. So there's 2 winter wolves there. Dern and this other figure is here. They're both above the ground, kind of out of the reach. Dern, I don't think Dern was quite out of the reach of the breath weapon of the winter wolf. No, he wasn't. The rest of the party's coming in from this side. So a battle ensues. They ultimately, the party charges in with Partry, excuse me, I kept calling him Partry during the game too, Trotter, and Willem staying behind. Trotter's laying down fire with his short bow, actually doing a pretty good job of getting some hits. He shot a few arrows right over Orvon's shoulder as he was charging one of the Winter Wolves. Swain charges a Winter Wolf by himself. He takes some hits for that, gets dragged down with its trip attack and chomped on a little bit. But ultimately, he is saved. The party defeats the Winter Wolf, this Winter Wolf here, pretty quickly because it had like Orvon, Pounder, Trotter was shooting at it. And I think I'm missing some. I might be missing somebody attacking it. So they bring that one down pretty quick. Swain's fighting this one over here by himself, and is dropped. Dern and then the figure above starts using magic, which the figure above is going to be revealed as my friend Matt's new character. The climax of this battle, though, was Pounder goes over to hit the Winter Wolf that has dragged Swain down, and he rolls a critical, natural 20. So using the table that we use, critical options from the Castle Keeper's Guide, I have him roll another d20 to confirm. He rolls another 20. So that on the chart is a max damage times 4. So totaling it out, he does 80 points of damage with that one hit. He's using a magical great axe that he has. So that is, we all got a good, like, oh crap out of that. And then it was also played out amongst the characters too. Like, they were like, holy crap. Like, that was, like, he just cut this massive wolf. These things are 5 foot at the shoulder in half. And the party's like, wow, I'm glad he's on our side. So we did, as a group though, we laughed because I think, I'd have to go back and check my records to be exact, but I think that's the 3rd time in the campaign that has happened where someone's rolled a nat 20 and then rolled a nat 20 on their confirmation to get that max damage times 4. And it's always epic when that happens. But Pounder's the new record holder for the amount of damage dealt in a single attack. I think previously it was Agrax with like 64 or 68 points of damage on a troll when they were in the Darkmere. And now it's Pounder with 80 points of damage with a critical hit. That's pretty awesome. That's why I like that version of the charts over the other ones, is because you have that opportunity to really do some epic damage when you need to. So the battle is won. The new figure comes down from he had cast Levitate on himself, and it's an elf, which they're all shocked to see an elf. Like, even though like Orvon's half elf, like he's more on the human side, which in Castles and Crusades is a thing. Like, you kind of pick your human or elf side that you more favor. No one here has seen an elf. Like, elves haven't been seen in a very long time, and there's setting reasons for that. So they're all very shocked to see an elf, and they meet him, and he's Estremar, which I probably butchered that name. If I did, I'm sorry, Matt. I'll get it right eventually. But he's Estremar. He's a elven wizard. So they talk a little bit. He doesn't really tell him what's going on, but it's clear that he was being pursued by these winter wolves. But he doesn't really go into the details why. They do talk for a while, and he ultimately ends up, he doesn't know where he is. He asks what land they're in, and they tell him, and he ultimately joins them, thinking there might be safety in numbers, which is accurate. And he agrees to travel with them, which is convenient because he was Matt's new character. So they travel. There's a bit like they have to camp another night, and during that night, Estremar actually talks to them more about asking them if they have maps of the area, and Trotter has plenty of maps, and he shows them, and they agree, like at night when they're camping, that Estremar can try to copy them. Trotter thinks that's actually a good idea if they have more copies of the maps available. But ultimately, they reach Udenmar, and as they're getting close to that, they leave the forest. It becomes this kind of rugged hill country. Trotter finds tracks, and he tells them that these are trolls, and there's a lot of them, but they're headed away from Udenmar. They're actually headed kind of north. Looks like they're going to enter the Darkmere, which is relatively close by. And the Darkmere is a very vast swamp that some of the other characters have spent some time in. Orvon, I want to think, I'd have to look back at my notes. I think Orvon has been there. I'm pretty sure he has. I could be wrong, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, which is also likely. My memory isn't so good. It's good thing I write things down to look up later. So they enter Udenmar. They search it a little bit. They find the remains of Ungren. These are the ones that Lork and Hrothgar and the Wolves of Arden killed. But they find the tunnel that leads into underneath the Blackburn Mountains, and it will ultimately lead them, hopefully, to the Troll Lands, which they're going to have to pass through. So they don't waste any time. They head down there, and Trotter tells them, like, this isn't going to be a short journey. Like, it's going to take us 2 days to get underneath the mountains and to the other side through this pass, from what he knows. And a lot of that was inspired. Actually, I just recently finished listening to the Fellowship of the Ring for the 3rd time, and like, there's obviously, if you've ever listened to Tolkien, there's a lot about travel in those. Like, travel is a thing. Like, it took Boromir 110 days from Gondor to Rivendell and stuff like that. It took 4 days to cross Moria. So time is a thing, and distance. So I like to incorporate that into my games. I'm a big Tolkien fan anyway, so that's probably where it comes from. But they're lucky. I roll random encounter. For random encounters during their travel, they don't come across any. They do come across a lot of track, though, and sign that the trolls are using this passage. Ultimately, they come to this cavern system you see in front of you here. Dwarven Forge stuff. Let me move this here. That's not good. I'll grab it that way. Okay. Get that out of the way. So they come up through this tunnel here. Trotter leading the way, and they end up coming in here. They hear Trotter actually, Orvon runs up into here right away, and they see this big cavern. There's actually some torchlight on over here somewhere. Yeah, right there. There's some torches lit. There's a door there. There's a raised area here with a large keg, but also a very large troll. Before they get in there, they hear voices, like, because they try to be silent, but they're not a party geared to be silent, so they are heard trying to sneak into this cavern. And they hear 2 voices talking to each other, because they hear, these voices hear something and they're talking to each other. Well, when they get in here, they expect to see a bunch of trolls, and what they eventually get is this 2-headed troll, which I always liked the 2-headed troll from the Fiend Folio, and then so I just adapted that. They don't really have one that I know of in Castles of Crusades, so I basically used Etten stats and then let him regenerate as a troll does. So I looked at the old Fiend Folio where there's a 2-headed troll there, and there's very similar. So I just used that. Pretty simple to do. It's one of the beauties of Castles and Crusades. It didn't really take any brain power, which is fortunate for me to figure that out. So battle ensues, and it's a pretty good fight. The troll charges down to meet them. Orvon stands up on top of this raised area and is inspired. Actually demoralizes the troll. He first time he'd used that ability, so that worked pretty good. He failed because he's not very good at mental saves, so he failed his save. He got a penalty to his hit roll. I played the troll. The Etten's one of my favorite monsters, and I play them a bit differently. Like when I was running 5th edition, they got like 4 attacks, like because they're powerful, and they got 2 attacks with each arm. So I did the same thing with this guy. So he's basically an Etten troll, and so he was getting 4 attacks, which is important because from a mechanical standpoint, it can be really bad, I think, if you just throw, not bad, but like if you throw just one monster against the party, it has to be very, very powerful, because if not, the sheer numbers of the party, they beat it down pretty quick. And I found that in various systems, and Castles of Crusades is a little bit different only because the characters aren't superheroes, but it still can happen pretty fast. And sometimes it doesn't, like conversely when they fought the demon. The other group fought the demon underneath the cities of Dornval, the streets of Dornval. that thing pounded them pretty good because it had spell power and it was fairly powerful in its hits and stuff, but that was also slightly modified. I mean, it had magical weapons and stuff. So a single creature against a whole party a lot of times doesn't have much of a chance. So I gave him extra attack, so he could attack 4 attacks per round. That proved pretty good. Nobody got dropped, although Pounder, it did run in and face Pounder and Orvon. I think it was Pounder and Orvon. It did some damage and actually brought Pounder down to, I think at the end, I didn't realize this because I don't track their hit points at all during the game. If they go down, they go down. He was down to 11, he said, by the end of the battle. But they ultimately finished this troll, and which was really good. They searched the area. The troll had this moth-eaten leather sack up by its keg. And I described this keg as Dern goes up to explore up that area. And the keg, it has like some sort of like alcohol in it, but it's just completely foul smelling. And the party joked, basically, if Dern wasn't willing to drink it, it probably definitely isn't worth drinking at all. It's really bad because he's Dern the Dirty. So that worked pretty well. So they find the sack, and in the sack they find treasure, and they find, you know, gold and some gems and some jewelry and some odd items, you know, that are all worth money, which they bundle up. But they find 2 items of note, and one of them's a set of boots, and the other one's a belt. And Estromar uses his spells. He detect magic, and they show as magical. That's the other thing that actually I forgot. When they were camping previously, like one of the first nights that I think Estromar camped with them, Matt did a really cool thing. Like, he talked about, like, in character, like he was going to cast a spell to do something, but what he was really doing was casting detect magic on the group because he wanted to see what they had for magic items. And they don't have a ton. Like, Pounder has his axe. Orvon, I think Orvon at that time has something. I don't remember. They don't have a lot of magic items. Trotter has his bow and his chainmail shirt are magical. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know well, regardless. But he did that to kind of see what the party had for magic, which I thought was really clever. So in this, he cast Detect Magic. The boots and the belt radiate magic. And he also decides to cast Identify. So they're boots of speed and a belt of mighty constitution, which is going to give a bonus to constitution. So they decide to give those boots to Dern to help up his speed. It basically gives him the movement of haste for 30 rounds a day if he needs to. And the belt is going to boost Orvon's constitution, which isn't really that great, which will give him more hit points and such. So that's where we ended the session. We were running a little bit long last night because there was a lot of some good role play with the players, and I never want to stifle that. So we ran a little bit long, so we got done. But they have this exit to explore, and that's where we'll pick up next time. So that was session 45. Appreciate you all watching, and I'll catch you at the next one.